Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Season 11, Episode 43, overall 593 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph, Ottawa. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership is a proud sponsor and advertiser of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show and has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969. And I was there this morning getting an oil change and tire rotation at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. And I want to give a special shout out to service consultant Greg Smith. Does a great job with customer service and my needs for my vehicle. You can call him at 519-824-3511, extension 252, or you can email Greg Smith at gsmith, that's gsmith at barrycullen.com. So thank you, Greg Smith, for looking after my auto needs for my vehicle as well. I hope everyone is doing well on this Monday, September 22nd, 2025. It's a busy time of the year for sports, especially the CFL, the NFL, and I'm looking forward to my guest today. This is his first appearance. We met about a week and a half ago in the media press box at Hamilton Stadium for the Blue Bombers Tiger Cats game, and his name is Taylor Allen. He is a sports reporter with the Winnipeg Free Press since 2019, covering the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the Winnipeg Sea Bears of the CEBL, and curling as well. So we're going to bring on Taylor Allen now and talk a little bit about his career and some Blue Bombers football. Good morning, Taylor. How are you?
Morning, Chris. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was nice meeting you a week and a half ago in Hamilton.
Yes, it was. It's always nice to make a trip to the Hammer, one of my favorite CFL stops, and it was nice getting to meet you as well, Chris.
How are things in Winnipeg right now, and what's the mood like with the Blue Bombers beating Ottawa and getting back to 500 at 7-7?
Well, I mean, a wise man in the pro football world once said, "Just win, baby." So I guess, in that regard, I guess Bomber fans, people in Winnipeg are happy. They did win on the weekend. The Blue Bombers, they beat the Ottawa Red Blacks 26-18. But Chris, I'm sure if you watched the game, you're well aware just how ugly of a performance that it was. So it did snap a 3-game winning streak, but I think people in Winnipeg, Bomber fans, confidence still isn't super high, which is that hasn't been the case with this team, with their fans, and 5+ years now. So yeah, it's a bit different over here in Bomberland these days. But again, they did win the game, so
it's better to win ugly than to lose pretty, like the LA Rams did yesterday.
Very true. Although I don't know how many games the Bombers, or really any team at any level playing football, can win when their quarterback only passes for 54 passing yards and only has 3 completions, goes 3 for 8, and throws a pick as well. Chris Trevler, the backup quarterback for the Bombers, who's had to play a couple of games in a row now because Zach Claris is still nursing a head injury that he suffered in the Banjo Bowl, and it's been a wild ride with Chris Trevler, and I think lots of Bomber fans are ready to get off of the Chris Trevler ride and get back to Zach Claris, which could be as early as this week. But yeah, not a pretty game.
I wanted to ask you about Zach Collaros' status from what you know, and I wanted to get your personal opinion. Do you feel maybe it's time for Zach Collaros to look at retiring with the history of concussions? And he's already a Hall of Fame quarterback in the CFL. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Zach Collaros.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were actually kind of thinking he might be ready to go for last week's game in Ottawa, but he ended up not being a full participant at all throughout the week. So they went with Chris Trevler. But I think there's a very good chance that Zach's going to play this upcoming weekend in Hamilton, or when they play Hamilton, when Hamilton comes to town here in Winnipeg. But yeah, I don't know. I understand why people are calling for Zach to retire, because I mean we've seen this happen these past few years, or really all over his career, where he's suffered some head injuries and whatnot, and obviously it's a very uncomfortable sight for anyone to see. And he is 37. He does have 3 kids, and he's made a good money in this league, won a few Grey Cups. So I understand why people are saying like, okay, enough is enough. But with that said, I mean, who are we to tell him that he can't
Yes.
do something that he loves anymore, right? And honestly, none of us are in the, are with him talking to these doctors and these experts, and who knows what they're saying to him, right? I do remember, well, there was a year or two ago, but he was asked quite a bit about his history of head injuries and stuff, and he said like he's gone through, all the testing and talked to all the experts that he has to or whatever, and he's been given the green light to keep playing. And so yeah, I mean, really, it's his life, it's his decision. And I mean, on the surface, it might be easy for one of us to say, hey, he needs to retire and he needs to walk away from this job and whatever. But it's like, well, A, he loves it. B, he's one of the most competitive people that I've ever covered in any sport in my career. And C, he's getting paid like $500,000. So it's very easy again for someone else to say this guy needs to hang it up and whatever. But it's like, okay, well, there's not too many people that are probably going to walk away from a job that pays them, that much money and whatnot. So I don't know. I think there's a good chance the Bombers, they're back at practice tomorrow. There's a good chance that we might finally get to speak to Zach for the first time since he did suffer his latest hit to the head. And honestly, I'm going to ask him, Chris. I'm going to say, like, is your history of head injuries in a way kind of overblown? Like maybe it's not as bad as we all think. So who knows? We'll hear what he has to say. But long story short, I guess I do see both sides of it. And also Milt Stiegel, he was kind of at the forefront of this conversation because he was very vocal on TSN saying that Zach does need to retire. And, Mike O'Shea, the Bombers head coach, he kind of, responded by saying like, no, Milt had no business saying that and whatnot. So he was backing Zach, obviously, and so did many other teammates. But yeah, it's been the big topic, and not just Winnipeg, just the CFL these past few weeks for sure.
I guess it's between himself, his team, and his family. I guess they're the ones that ultimately factor in his decision, because everybody likes seeing him play. It's just I just, like I said, I'm a football fan as well as media, and I just want to see him have a normal life outside of the game of football as well. But if the doctors and the team and his family give him the go ahead, then that's great. Gotta ask you, what is he like to interview? And from a standpoint of media in Winnipeg, what is his biggest strengths as quarterback of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers?
Ooh, good question. Well, I think like I said, he's one of the most competitive people that I've ever covered, right? And I think that kind of rubs off on his teammates. I mean, this is a guy who's played through injuries, who he'll run through a brick wall if that's what it takes to win the game. And I mean, sure, everyone likes to throw for 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, or whatever, but honestly, this is the guy that really just cares about winning and whatever that takes. And if that means giving the ball to Brady Oliveira 20 plus times and they win the game, then so be it. And you talk to everyone in that locker room, none of them have anything bad to say about Zach. Like they all think the world of this guy. And despite being 37 years old, he still moves around pretty well around the pocket. And actually some of his most dangerous plays, or sometimes some of the moments where he looks the best, is when he does roll out of the pocket in kind of a broken down play and he makes something out of nothing and whatnot. And he's very accurate. I mean, he has had some pretty good weapons to work with in Winnipeg over the years. This year, maybe not so much, obviously, since they lost Kenny Lawler to the Ticats, and Dalton Schoen is now torn his ACL and stuff. But for the most part, he's making it work no matter whatever they give them. With that said, though, he's not a perfect quarterback. Especially these past 2 years, he's been turning the ball over way too much. And when the lights are bright, Chris, when it's the Grey Cup, he has had some real big stinkers in the Grey Cup. Last year he did kind of hurt his hand at one point, but even before he did hurt his hand, it was a real ugly performance. So yeah, the Bombers have lost 3 Grey Cups in a row, and a big reason for that, if we're all being really honest here, is that Zach has not really performed to his level in those big games.
Want to ask you this too, Taylor, before we get into some CFL news today. Do the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, from your perception, have somebody in mind in case Zach does decide maybe at the end of this year that he's going to call it a career? Do they have somebody right now on that roster that could step in to be their long-term franchise quarterback?
As of this minute, no. It's definitely not Chris Trevler.
No.
That's for sure. They did have the guy in-house a few years ago, but sadly for them, the timing wasn't right. They had Drew Brown, who's now in Ottawa, and sadly he's had a tough time kind of staying healthy, but he did pass for 400 yards this weekend, and it was his first game back from a knee injury, so that was a step in the right direction for him. But that was a guy at the time when, obviously he was due to get paid, and Zach was, I think, 34 or 35 at the time. Zach was getting a little long in the tooth, but it would have been a pretty gutsy move, though, to walk away from Zach after, I think it was 3 or 4 Grey Cups at that point, to then go with the young guy in Drew Brown. But, the fact that it has kind of looked bad with Zach this year and last year, that conversation has kind of come up again from some fans saying, oh, we should have just kept Drew Brown. But honestly, Drew Brown this weekend was talking to my colleague Jeff Hamilton, and he said, "No, the Bombers should not have kept me. They should have kept going with Zach and let me walk. They made the right call." So the fact that Drew Brown, of all people, is saying that, I think that kind of answers the question there. But yeah, they currently don't have the heir apparent to Zach in house, but they did draft Taylor Elgersma, a young Canadian quarterback.
Laurier.
Wilfred Laurier, yeah, hell of a player. He spent time with the Green Bay Packers in the preseason, actually played really well for the Packers. And some people were actually really surprised that he got cut by the Packers. They thought at the very least he'd be on the PR with them, but that was not the case. So as far as I know, he hasn't been picked up yet. I would imagine he's going to kind of take his time down south, seeing if he could get another opportunity somewhere. But yeah, that could be a guy who could be in Winnipeg as early as next year. And he's still young. Obviously hasn't played a full season of pro ball yet, just a preseason game really with the Packers. But that's a guy in 2-3 years, who knows, he could be ready to be the under center for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as a starter.
Well, this franchise has also lost a lot of good players the last few years because of their success, just like the Toronto Argonauts. How much of an impact was losing Kenny Lawler to the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and now Dalton Schoen for the rest of the year with the ACL?
I mean, that's the thing. If Dalton Schoen stayed healthy, I think it would have been a manageable loss, right? But I mean, those are arguably the 2 best receivers in the league when they're healthy. So the fact that they lost Kenny, it's like, okay, well, they still got Dalton. We'll make it work. But then Dalton tears his ACL early on in the year, and this is insane. I don't recall this ever happening in the NFL or CFL before from a skilled position like a receiver. But Dalton Schoen tore his ACL. I think it was in week 4 or week 5. He rehabbed for 6 weeks, opted to not get surgery, and his plan was to try to tough it out and play on a torn ACL. And you'll hear maybe offensive linemen or maybe even some quarterbacks have played on torn ACLs before, but never a wide receiver. So he tried to tough it out in Labor Day in Saskatchewan, and by about halftime, he went to the sideline and he finished the game. But by halftime, he basically knew, like, hey, this isn't sustainable. This isn't going to work, obviously. So yeah, losing Dalton was massive for this year. But yeah, Kenny, he is having one hell of a year for the Ticats, and I got to see it up close and in person, obviously, when I met Hugh 2 weeks ago in Hamilton. And yeah, that was quite the luxury that the Bombers had, having Lawler and Schoen. And then, of course, you can't forget about Nick Dembski as well. They had the best receiving corps in the league. And now this year, it's a totally different story. They no longer have that really reliable, big target like that. Like Dembski is one of the best receivers in this league still. but he's mostly out of the slot and whatnot. And then they have Ontario Wilson, who's a really good player as well. He spent the preseason with the New York Jets, and he just came back the other week. So that was a big boost for them there. But yeah, this is a different Bombers team. This isn't the same team that went to 5 straight Grey Cups. The talent, they still have a lot of talent, and defense and special teams. I think they're kind of really starting to peak right now. But yeah, this isn't going to be as pretty as these last 5 seasons. They're definitely lacking in some areas that they weren't before.
What is the fan base thinking right now? Is this still a playoff team? Do you feel at 7-7 they still can get into the playoffs? Obviously, Saskatchewan's going to win the West and host the West this year, but do you feel they can at least finish second? Because Calgary's kind of come down to earth a little bit, being 8-5 now as well.
For sure. I mean, the bad news for the Bombers is that Calgary owns the tiebreaker with the Bombers. Okay. So if their records are tied at the end of the year, Calgary, they'll keep that number 2 spot. But the good news for Winnipeg is they own the tiebreaker with the BC Lions. We're right on their heels for the 3rd and final playoff spot out of the West as well. So yeah, I think after this weekend, people are pretty confident the Bombers are going to win, are going to make the playoffs. But I haven't met a single Bombers fan that's confident that this team can win 2 road playoff games to earn the rights to play in the Grey Cup here in Winnipeg in November. But I mean, hey, if you go back to 2019, and Michael Shea will be the first person to tell you this, hey, in 2019, that's exactly what we did. We won 2 games on the road. And sure enough, they won the Grey Cup. So it can be done. Hey. But I don't know. This is a much different team 6 years later, obviously.
And you could say the same thing about the Toronto Argonauts this year, who thought the Grey Cup champions would be 5-9 and now having to fight for a playoff spot or a crossover as well.
Absolutely. But I mean, this is just the CFL. You never really know what you're going to get. Quarterbacks, sadly, they kind of drop like flies in this league. It always feels like. And, the teams that have a really good backup, it feels like every team in this league needs a really strong number 2, because it feels like every backup has to start at some point. But yeah, Toronto, been a weird year for those guys for sure. And honestly, just the East in general, like the Ticats can already pop the champagne as the East Division regular season champions. At least, like, no one's going to be catching them. Ottawa, sadly, another year for them where they just can't seem to figure it out. But yeah, then Montreal and Toronto obviously are both kind of riding this crazy roller coaster ride this year and whatnot. So who knows? People kind of always overlook the teams in the East, and then at the end, they come up clutch and knock the Bombers off in the Grey Cup. So I think people, at least in Winnipeg, know not to write off anyone in the East quite yet, even though some of their records aren't very pretty.
One team in the East, besides everyone's talking about Hamilton, is Montreal. I saw them play Toronto. Obviously, Toronto had their 3rd string quarterback in Daggy, but Montreal has a great defense. They have good special teams. If they can get competent quarterback play from McLeod Bethel Thompson with their receiving core and that defense and the coaching staff, the Montreal Alouettes, to me, could very well go into Hamilton and win the East Final. And we'll see. We'll see. But I really think Montreal could be an X factor in the playoffs.
For sure. With that said, though, I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders, they are the heavy favorites, and rightfully so. And that kills people in Winnipeg to admit, because I think the last thing people here want to see is the Riders winning a Grey Cup in Winnipeg. That'd be pretty painful for Bombers fans, but both sides of the ball, running the ball, throwing the ball. Trevor Harris is having an MOP caliber season. Yeah, they are as well-rounded as it gets. Very consistent, and the Bombers haven't been able to beat them this year. So, yeah, there's a good chance that Riderville will have their 5th ever Grey Cup this November. But again, this is the CFL. It's as wacky as it gets, so you never know.
Best record in the regular season doesn't always guarantee a Grey Cup. Look at Winnipeg last year and then Toronto the year before. So
exactly,
it's how you play. It's not always the best record that wins. It's how your team's playing at this time of the year. Got to ask you this as well. Do you feel Corey Mace should be the CFL Coach of the Year then? Would he be your choice?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there would be someone else.
Dave Dickerson with Calgary for the job he's done?
Yeah, you can make a strong argument for Dave Dickinson, honestly, because honestly, no one saw Calgary being that good of a team. this year. I think people had them as a playoff team, but I don't think people had them, in the race for the top spot in the West. I don't think people thought they'd be ahead of BC and Winnipeg. So they've been kind of a surprise. And obviously they got Vernon Adams Jr., which was a massive upgrade at quarterback and whatnot. But yeah, the turnaround that they've had, because I mean, they were the top dog in the CFL for what felt like a decade. And then these past 3-4 years, they have totally fallen off a cliff. And I think lots of Stampeders fans and people just around the country were kind of thinking like, okay, it's time for Dave Dickinson to go. Like it's not working there anymore. He's lost his touch or something. But I mean, Vernon Adams has just breathed a new life into that team, and they're a contender as well. I mean, you like Montreal and of course Saskatchewan, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Calgary and Winnipeg in November either.
Who would your choice be for MOP? In the East, obviously, it would be Bo Levi or Mitchell with Hamilton, I think. Who would be your choice for the West?
It's hard to go against Trevor Harris, I'd say. And it's crazy that it's 2025 and we're talking to MOP and then we're talking about Trevor Harris and Bo Levi Mitchell, guys who I feel like 5 years ago, people were kind of talking about that they might be on a decline and I don't know, their best years might be behind them and whatnot. And here these guys are in their late 30s and they're still balling out. So, just kind of crazy to see these guys, kind of find a second wind this late in their career, especially Bo. I mean, people were so ruthless to him a few years ago. They were saying that, all right, this guy just needs to retire. It's time to get a job at TSN and move into broadcasting, Bo. You've lost your game. And here he is, back-to-back years where he's been a really strong player. So yeah, it's been cool to see.
Well, Nick Arbuckle, until he got hurt, was in the MOP conversation as well. And who thought a journeyman quarterback would be as successful as Nick Arbuckle has been as well? He's been kind of a surprise until he got hurt in the, I think it was the Edmonton game he got hurt.
Absolutely. I mean, that was the guy who was kind of crowned to be the next big thing in the CFL when he started out as a backup with Calgary. And then we got some starting opportunities with Ottawa and Edmonton, I believe, and whatnot, and just bouncing around and ended up getting out of the league, ended up being a player that, Toronto just kind of picked up off the scrap heap, basically. I think Nick was actually considering retiring, honestly. And then the Grey Cup happens last year, and Chad Kelly can't play. And Nick Arbuckle has to go in. I think Bomber fans are just kind of assuming, like, okay, like Nick Arbuckle, there's no way that we're going to lose to this guy. And he totally outdueled Zach Claris. So that's another guy. I think he's one of the best stories in the league. It's just been really cool to see him kind of bounce back. So yeah, you just look across the CFL. There's so many quarterbacks that have been in this league for a long time, and none of them have always stayed at the top. They've all kind of like had so many highs and lows. Vernon Adams is another one. McLeod, Bethel Thompson, Cody Fajardo. I mean, that guy's a perfect example.
Yep.
It's the life as a CFL quarterback is not an easy one. That's for sure.
And look at Nathan Rourke this year. He's playing at an MOP level or getting there. Last year, he just didn't seem to have it. I think it was hard for him to come back from the NFL to the CFL and then come through. It was basically Vernon Adams' team in BC. And it seems like now Nathan Rourke has reasserted himself as a franchise quarterback with the BC Lions.
Yeah, I think last year was kind of an awkward situation for the Lions. I mean, Vernon Adams was playing really well. And then obviously Nathan Rourke's coming back to the CFL. You're going to take him, obviously. And he didn't look like Nathan Rourke. And I think we all kind of underestimated how tall of a task that was for a guy to be out of the CFL for a year or two, kind of just get thrown back in midway through the year and be the guy. And, I'm sure they all said the right, and they said, everyone on the team said all the right things, but I mean, I'm sure there were guys on that team that were in the Vernon Adams camp, and there were guys on the team that were in the Nathan Rourke camp. And there's an old saying that if you have two quarterbacks, you actually have zero. So I kind of think that was the case for the BC Lions this year. But yeah, Nathan Rourke is looking back to Nathan Rourke already this year. And I think some people are still kind of believing that this guy should be in the NFL. But I think the Lions obviously are very happy to have him in Vancouver.
Taylor, since I have you on here, there's a CFL media press conference today at 1:00 with Stuart Johnson, and it's about implementing big changes to the games. Just quick thoughts on this conference at 1:00.
My goodness, Chris, what on earth could this be? You and I kind of spoke a little bit earlier today, and I was saying how I can't recall in any pro sports league where with 24 hours of notice, midway through the year, a league said, "Hey, tomorrow we're going to announce something that's going to have a major impact on the league." So you go on Twitter right now, everyone that's connected to the CFL in any capacity feels like they're chiming in. It feels like nobody knows. It feels like somehow this didn't get leaked out to anyone, which is kind of refreshing. So we're all going to find out what this is very soon. And also, it's exciting, right? And you just kind of hope that the CFL delivers with something. I mean, to make this announcement, to make this such of a big tease, if it's something kind of minuscule, I think people are going to be like, really? Like, come on, that was kind of lame. So I know there is a lot of CFL purists, and I know a lot of people that are kind of against change in this league because there is so much tradition and whatnot. But I don't know. I'm kind of in the camp where I think this league does need to shake something up. And what that's going to be today, I don't know. But whatever it is, I think I'll probably be open to it.
I'm just hoping they keep the 3 downs personally. I like the 3 downs and I like the game the way it is, but I understand times are changing. And my speculation, my opinion is it has something to do with I think it has something to do with the Toronto Argonauts partnership or MLSE's partnership with the Buffalo Bills to cross promote football in Southern Ontario. So, well, I guess we'll find out at 1 o'clock on CFL.ca. I guess you can watch it live stream.
Yeah, I mean, I would be shocked if they do the 4 downs thing. I really don't see how that would make the game much more exciting or any better. I understand that most people prefer the NFL and whatnot, but to me, it has nothing to do with the downs. Like when you compare the two leagues, that's not what makes the NFL better. I mean, obviously, just the talent in the NFL is better. The stars, the promotion, the marketing in the NFL is so much better. It's not the downs that makes it better. So yeah, there's a lot of different directions that the CFL could go. I kind of like what you're getting at, Chris. I think it might be some kind of maybe similar partnership type of deal, like the Argos just announced with the Bills. But yeah, I don't know. It feels to me, I feel like it's something else. I personally, if it was up to me, I'd love to see them scrap the East and the West and just the top 6 teams.
Unified standings like the National Lacrosse League, indoor lacrosse. They got rid of their divisions and now they have 14 teams, and it's basically the top 8 out of the 14 make the playoffs. 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, and I'm going to agree with you on that, Taylor. They really don't need divisions anymore. The only reason I see why they keep the divisions is because they want to try to save on travel costs.
Yeah, no, for sure. But like for the Bombers case, I know, which is very unique to the rest of the league, but it doesn't matter who comes to town. The game sells out. There's a good crowd. I mean, I know people like the divisions because of the rivalries and whatnot, but like if you're a Bombers fan, you're still going to hate the Riders, whether there's divisions or not. And if you're a Riders fan, you're still going to hate the Bombers. And if you're a Stampeders fan or an Elks fan, you're still going to hate your crosstown or cross province rival, no matter what, right? So I don't think we need the divisions to keep some of these rivalries alive. But I do think scrapping the divisions would just make the season a lot more interesting, a lot more exciting. I mean, there's so many times where it feels like with 3 games left in the regular season, that's like, hey, the standings are basically set, except for maybe the number 3 seed in the East or something like that. And it's boring. Like you want to see it go down to the wire. You don't want meaningless regular season football. Like that's a nightmare. And the CFL has had that in these past couple of years, or not last year, but I think the 2 years before that was the case. So that'd be something that I'd be in favor of seeing. And also it would be nice then that would mean the best 2 teams in the league can theoretically meet in the Grey Cup the way it is now. Let's say you think Calgary and Saskatchewan are the best 2 teams in the league. Well, there's no way that they're going to meet in the Grey Cup. So I think it potentially creates some better Grey Cup matchups as well.
What are your thoughts on new CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnston? And have you had a chance to speak with him yet?
Not yet. No, I'm hoping I get a chance to soon, and that could come as early as this week, depending on what's announced today. But honestly, Chris, I think it's too early to say anything good or bad about him. He seems like I mean, obviously he has an impressive resume, impressive background. He seems to love the league and the country and everything that the CFL stands for and whatnot. So I think that's all great. But again, I think it's kind of too early to say. But I think if you ask me in 24 hours, I'll probably have an answer for you. Because again, I think a lot's going to hinge on what gets announced today. But I'll say this, assuming that it is a major announcement like that they are teasing, I do respect him that he's willing to make a big change in his first year. I think a lot of people would maybe be kind of scared to ruffle some feathers in their first year, but here he is, making a big change, at least apparently a big change. So yeah, we'll see.
What are your thoughts on the Toronto Argonauts? Obviously, the on-field product has been pretty darn good under Pinball Clements, John Murphy, and Ryan Dinwiddie. As a season ticket holder and freelance media member for the Toronto Argonauts, the other night, their game, well, I think it was Friday night? The Friday night game where they lost to Montreal 21-19 went right down the wire. It was a very competitive, close game, as always. They announced the attendance at 13,845 there, but being in the media press box, it looked like 8,200 fans. And a lot of the Argos season ticket holders, and that keeps saying it's great that Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment pays the bills and looks after the team, but the marketing, and then they should be able to, I don't know if you've ever been to BMO Field, it's got one of the nice playing surfaces in the league being grass, and the location's great, and the team has won 2 out of the last 3 Grey Cups, and they still can't draw flies. And I just wanted to get your thoughts from being an outsider, your perceptions on Toronto and the Canadian Football League long term.
Well, it's definitely, as an outsider, it's definitely frustrating. It seems it doesn't matter who's on the Argos, how many games they're winning, how many games they're losing, whether they win 2 Grey Cups in 3 years or whatever it is, that they just don't get the support from the community. And a lot of people will point out the marketing and stuff, but I mean, for being honest, if I love the CFL, but if I lived in a city that had an MLB team, an NBA team, NHL team, whatever else, lacrosse team, everything else that Toronto has, like you only have so many dollars to spend on entertainment type things, right? Like it would be hard for me to justify spending money on an Argos game, if I'm being honest, when I could go to a Blue Jays game and save up for the Raptors and whatever. With that said, though, with the population that Toronto has, the greater Toronto area has, to only get 8,000 people or whatever it was is inexcusable. It needs to be better than that. And again, this has been a topic of conversation for way too long, 20 plus years, basically. And the sad thing is I don't see it really improving. It doesn't matter who the commissioner is. This is always a topic. Doesn't matter where the Grey Cup is or what's going on at the league. This is always gets asked to the commissioner at the CFL or at the Grey Cup. In the CFL kind of during the media week leading up to the game and whatnot. And I've yet to hear of anyone who has any kind of solution or any kind of ideas that would really make a big difference. Of course, if there was Argo billboards and more advertising, whatever, I'm sure that would help. But at the end of the day, with that, I don't know how big of a difference that would be. I think people in Toronto would much rather have an NFL team. And I think, this Bills partnership with the Argos is kind of interesting. But I think people also are kind of nervous that, like, okay, is this the beginning of something else? I don't know. But I do know, I think the Bills, I read this the other day that I think it's 10 or 15% of their season ticket holders are actually from Canada, which is pretty big percentage when you think about it. And obviously most of those would be from Ontario, of course. So who knows? I don't think the Bills then would be too keen on Toronto getting a team, because then they're losing quite a few of their fans, or you'd assume that they would be at least. But yeah, I don't know. Chris, what's in your mind, what would be the solution to making the Argos, popular again in Toronto?
Other than the stadium, you can't find their merchandise anywhere. So they need to expand their marketing in Toronto and outside of Toronto. Especially, they have their training camp here in Guelph, where I live, and they need to sell merchandise here. I think they've done it. They're limited in what they can do, but I think marketing needs to be better. And with MLSE owning all the Toronto teams, they should do what they do in Buffalo. Um, Buffalo, basically, the Sabres, the Bills, and Bandits all cross promote each other, and maybe that's what they should do with the Argonauts and the Blue Jays. There are a lot of people in Toronto that don't know anything about the CFL or have even heard of it. So I think the biggest thing there is marketing. The on-field product, the in-game entertainment is excellent. They're a first-class organization. I just think MLSE, in my opinion, this is my opinion as a season ticket holder and media member, is they need to spend more money on marketing. They need to get billboards out there. I know they had TSN the Overdrive on Friday night at the game with Jamie McClellan, Noodles, and Brian Hayes and Luke Wilson. I thought that was positive. They need to do more of it. And to me, I know some fans are like, well, if you give giveaways every game, they'll just come for the giveaways and that's it. And I'm like, but you know what? Until they get this fan base built up, to me, I think there's no reason why they can't draw 20,000 a game at BMO Field. I think right now they need to do more promotions and giveaways. And this, their last game of the year is against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They should be promoting that game, but the focus, unfortunately, is going to be on Bills Day. It's going to be Doug Flutie, Jim Kelly. They're going to promote the Bills and the Argos stuff, but the Argos Tiger Cats is one of the best rivalries in CFL and oldest rivalry. So to me, it's promoting, marketing the team, and getting the players out more in the community. I've interviewed a lot of these guys in the locker room, and they're not just talented football players; they're good people, and I'd like to see more coverage of them on TV and the radio. I know they've done a little bit on TSN 1050 and with the Overdrive the other night, but it would be nice to see a little more of that. Sorry for ranting.
No, not at all. And yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. And also the local media needs to do a better job as well. Like how often does the Toronto Star, the Toronto Sun, how often are they sending, reporters to the Argos? I can tell you, not very often. So yeah, there's
Nope.
from all sides, yeah, it needs to get better in Toronto. But again, I don't know. This has been the topic forever, and nothing seems to ever change. So why is it going to get any better? I don't know. But let's hope. Let's hope, because again, the CFL needs Toronto. You can't have a Canadian league without Toronto having a team. So yeah, we need them to figure it out. But sadly, Chris, this isn't just a Toronto issue anymore. I'm very fortunate with the Free Press. I do get to travel to cover the Bombers playing in other markets across the league, and sadly, most teams are not in a great spot right now when it comes to attendance and whatever. And, I'll get an Uber to whatever stadium I'm in and whatever city I'm in the day of the game. And I kid you not, more often than not, the Uber driver doesn't even know that that city has a professional football team and whatever. Yeah. So across the board, the CFL needs to do better marketing their stars. Like if you ask the average person to name 5 CFL players, I think they'd have a hard time doing it, because again, we don't see these players, outside of, unless you're watching the game on Saturday or whatever, like you don't see these players really or learn much about their background enough. And that's something that TSN could be doing a lot better. Who are these guys? What do they overcome to get to this point?
More stories, more in-depth interviews, more stories like they used to do on CBC.
Absolutely. Like those are the things that people love. People love to know the backgrounds of players, why they should care about a guy or why they should root for a guy and whatever. And, Brady Oliveira, for example, this is the star running back for the Blue Bombers, the MLP last year. I mean, this is a guy who rescues dogs in the offseason and during the season. During the season, he goes to northern Manitoba, goes to these reserves and rescues dogs in need. And, in the offseason, he travels to Bali, Indonesia, and rescues dogs, street dogs there and whatnot. And he has saved thousands of dogs or whatever. Why is this guy not, being promoted more than what he already is and whatnot? And Bo Levi Mitchell, this is a guy who's going to go down in history as one of the greatest quarterbacks in CFL history. Well, I don't even know much about his background or his story before getting to the CFL and whatnot, because we don't learn this stuff, right? So, that's something the CFL needs to be doing heck of a lot better with so whether that be the CFL starting a podcast where they have players on and we learn more about their stories or something like that, or just getting on TSN to do at least a weekly segment where like, hey, this is the player we're going to highlight this week or something like that. I don't know, but again, we don't know enough about the backgrounds of these players, and honestly you could throw a dart at the board and whatever name it landed on, chances are the guy would have a pretty cool story, because every Bomber that I get the pleasure to talk to, they've all overcome things and whatnot to get to where they are today. So there's definitely no shortage of good stories. It's just like, let's tell them. So,
by the way, I do a weekly podcast show the last 4 years called the Argo Bounce Podcast Show with my co-host Nick Small. He's a younger generation Argos fan, and I'm the older guy. And we try to get guys on from around the league. And what we're trying to do is get more players to come on our shows as well. And to me, I think that's what they need. I think a lot more of the players need to come on these podcast shows as well. And I think it would be a great idea for the CFL, the league, to have a once a week podcast show during the season where they get coaches, players, GMs, maybe even season ticket holders to come on the show. And that's just a suggestion as well.
Absolutely, and they could even get a current player to host it or something like that, or a recently retired player or whatever it may be. And actually, the Bombers, they have a podcast, handled internally podcast, and every week Zach Claris is on it, as well as Ed Tate, the writer for the team, their media guy, and then Darren Cameron as well, their PR guy, sorry. And they'll have different players on the show every week. And half the time they're not even talking about football. They're talking about food and whatever shows they're watching. And it's awesome. It's fantastic. Like I learned things about these guys that I otherwise wouldn't get a chance to learn about. So why does the CFL not have a podcast or a YouTube show or something like that? I think there's no excuse why they can't and why they don't. It's something that they need to do. So yeah, that'd be my big suggestion.
What are your thoughts on Luke Wilson? I know a lot of the fans either like him for being outspoken and being himself, and then half them can't stand Luke Wilson because of his ties with the NFL.
You know what? I'm kind of torn on Luke. I watch him on TV and I think he's very entertaining. I really enjoy him breaking down the X's and O's and talking about, what's probably happening in the locker room after something like this, something like that and whatnot, whether it's NFL or CFL. I think on TV, he's fantastic. But then there's the social media Luke Wilson, who, there are many things he has said on Twitter and stuff that I agree with. And I actually really respect the fact that he works for TSN, the rights holder, and he's not afraid to kind of call the CFL out on some of the things that honestly that should be called out for. Like some of the things that we're talking about, Chris. But then there's other things that he does on Twitter that I really don't respect. And one of those is, well, speaking of respect, the lack of respect that he shows for some people, some fans, and some legends, such as Bob Irving, who was the longtime voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on CJOB. In fact, our press box is actually named after Bob Irving. That's how big of a legend he is in Winnipeg, and obviously the CFL in general. He was one of the best voices in the game all time. To me, the best voice in the game all time. And Luke, which was just being real. I mean, I won't go into all of it. If you're really interested, just look it up and you can find it. But yeah, Luke was being a real big jerk to Bob online. And I understand people can disagree and you can have a discussion or even an argument online, and that's fine. And sometimes things get heated. But at the end of the day, you still need to show the person respect. And Luke was not showing Bob even a tiniest ounce of respect. And fans were saying, like, come on, man, like, this is Bob Irving you're talking to. And Luke just said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but basically said, like, what impact did this guy have? He was just a broadcaster, like, whatever. I was like, really, dude? Like, yeah. So, not
people,
cool.
And people forget that in the 1980s, the CFL had their own TV network called the CFN, the Canadian Football Network, and Bob was doing the games there too. So I first listened to him and watched him on CFN with Dave Hodge and Bob Irvin in the 80s and he did the Bombers games for what, 43 years or over 40 years?
Yep.
He has a huge impact on the CFL and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And Bob, that's somebody I would like to meet one day because he's a legend in the CFL. And with when you think of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, you don't just think Zach Collaros, Michael Shea, Bud Grant, Dieter Brock. You think of Bob Irvin as well.
Very, very well said. And Bob, I could tell you, Chris, Bob is a very nice man as well. They say to not meet your heroes. Bob is definitely one of my heroes growing up, in Winnipeg and stuff. And just a quick little story. My very first day covering the Bombers, it was a whatever practice, and I was an intern at the Free Press at the time. I was a nobody. It's my first day, end of summer, whatever. And the very first person who came up to me, introduced themselves to me. Not that he needed to introduce himself, obviously, but the very first person who came up to me to shake my hand, made me feel welcome, made me feel like I belonged, was Bob Irving, and I'll never forget that. So yeah, Luke, doing a lot of great things, but at the same time, you don't need to be a jerk about it.
I did meet him Friday night in Edmonton. I had a chance to talk to him for a minute. He seemed good. I'm not making excuses for him, but he is also a rookie in broadcasting. So maybe over time he'll mellow out a little bit. But I think in a way he can be good for the league. It's just he's still kind of new to broadcasting as well. So I would say give him a little more time and stuff like that. But I want to when I first started doing this 6 years ago, I applied to the Argonauts 4 years ago for a media pass. So I approached Mike Hogan, who was on the Fan 590 for many years in Toronto. He's kind of a broadcasting legend there. And he replied back to me and he put me in touch with Chris Belinovich. And the Argonauts were one of the first teams to give me freelance media opportunities, and Mike Hogan and Ben Grant do a great job, and they made me feel welcome down there. Same with Rick Zamperin and Simone Lawrence, or even RJ Broadhead. They didn't care about my age. They didn't care that I'm doing this self-taught and didn't go to school for this. And I'm very grateful to the Toronto Argonauts, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and the Canadian Football League as well. And the players have been tremendous. And I'd like to see more exposure for the league and the players and the people in this league. It makes you feel like you're part of their family.
Absolutely. Very well said. And I mean, I live in a city that has an NHL hockey team, obviously the Winnipeg Jets, and people ask me all the time, like, oh, don't you want to be covering the Jets? And then honestly, no, I don't. I love covering the CFL. I love covering the Bombers because it is such a welcoming family type environment, whether it's the other media folk or even just dealing with the players and coaches on a day-to-day basis. They treat us with respect. I think they appreciate the coverage and whatnot, and it creates a pleasant working environment. So yeah, I'm very happy to be covering the CFL. It's one of the best sports gigs in the country for sure.
I did cover the NFL draft in Detroit a couple years ago. It was an amazing experience, and I really appreciate it. But it just the NFL, you're kind of like a number. It's a corporate thing. The CFL, you get up close to coaches, players, and it's just a different environment. And I want to see this league continue to grow. And now, since I've got you on here, Taylor, for a few more minutes. Expansion. They've been talking about expansion since I was 12 years old back in 1984. And now 41 years later, they still haven't done it. I understand they want to make sure if they do expand, they don't get it wrong. Because I love the National Lacrosse League, indoor lacrosse. But in the last couple of years, they've had to fold teams. They've had to move teams. And that's not a good look for the league as well. So I understand why the CFL is being cautious. But ideally, as a fan and media member, 9 teams, I would like to see 12 at some point, but I'm just hoping they can get to 10, and it's been over 41 years, and I just hopefully one day we'll see in my lifetime, in your lifetime, another expansion team. And I understand they want to make sure they get the right market and the right ownership as well.
9 teams for this long is inexcusable.
Since 1958.
That's insane. That is absolutely insane. I remember talking to Randy Ambrosi. I think it was in 2020. I think it was during the COVID lockdown and whatever. And he said, I think it was 5 years, but he said in the next 5 years, it might have been 10, but whatever it was, in the next 5 years, or at least before he's done being the commissioner, which he is done being the commissioner, they will get a 10th team in the CFL. Well, Chris, we're here 5 years later, and we're talking about there being 9 teams in the CFL. And yeah, it's 9 teams is such an odd number. They're not even the biggest league in Canada anymore. The CEBL has them beat. They have more than 9 teams, and that league's only been around for 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it's been. So yeah, I understand it's a little more complicated with football and whatnot in the stadium and all that good stuff. But yeah, I mean, we would all be so thrilled to see the Maritimes uh, have a team. Then it would truly be the Canadian Football League. But again, I mean, we've been talking, Chris, about how the league kind of is struggling in so many markets. So it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe we should just kind of take care of the 9 teams we currently have, try to figure out, how we can make it better in those 9 markets before we talk about a 10th market. So I do see both sides to it, but I never in my wildest imagination thought we would still just have 9 teams in 2025. When the Red Blacks came back, over a decade ago, whenever that was, I was pretty confident that the 10th team wouldn't be too far behind, but apparently they are, because it doesn't sound like it's going to be happening anytime soon. Unless, hey, who knows? Maybe that's the announcement today, but I don't think it is.
I'm old school. I know TSN does a great job with their coverage, and now they're partner up with CTV to get a little more exposure. But I would like to see them go back to CBC and have a Saturday game of the week.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I had a lot of American friends back in the 70s and 80s, even the early 90s. They could watch CFL games on CTV and CBC, and then TSN took over the rights and stuff like that. So I think they're doing okay, but I think there's room for improvement with TSN, CTV, and I really would like CBC to get back into it. I don't know if they want to, but I think during the summer when the NHL shut down, to have a game of the week on CBC as well, to get everyone in the country being able to watch it.
And bring back Walby's Warriors. CBC back in the day, come on. When I was a kid, I loved used to watching CFL on CBC, and Chris Walby would be sharing his Warriors from the game and whatnot. A Blue Bombers legend, obviously. Yeah, I loved watching CFL on CBC back in the day. So that'd be cool to bring that back. But yeah, I don't know enough about the broadcasting deal, how they'd be able to make that work and stuff with TSN being the rights holder and whatnot. But yeah, I think there's so many things with this league. There's so many positive things about this league. There's so many reasons why we love this league, but at the same time, this league also has a lot of warts, and that's why I think this announcement today, again, not to beat a dead horse, but I think that's what kind of makes this so exciting. Is that hopefully, okay, this will be something that, whatever anyone's idea is to make this league better, hopefully it is one of those things, and hopefully it does work.
Is Chris Walby still involved with the Blue Bombers in some capacity?
A little bit, yep. There's a Bonfire Sports Winnipeg, which is done by Darren Bombing. He was on the TSN radio here in Winnipeg for a long time, and Darren is one of the most talented, one of the nicest guys in Winnipeg sports media. So he does before every Bombers game, the day or two before every Bombers game, he does a weekly pregame show, and he breaks it down with Chris Walby. And then after every Bombers game, live, basically, seriously, 5-10 minutes after the game ends, Darren hops on his show live podcast, and it's on YouTube and whatever other platform. And he has a super fan by the name of Zach Schnitzer who hops on with him, and there's a live chat, so people are commenting and stuff and whatever. And yeah, it's a really well done show. Sadly, we're the only market that has a show like this, Bonfire Sports Winnipeg. It'd be a great show for everyone to have in every market, especially right after kickoff. So fans, who are very passionate, whether it's win or lose, they have a platform that they could hop on and get involved in a discussion right away. So that's really cool. But yeah, it'd be cool if other teams had that as well.
Taylor, I know we're getting short on time because the CFL press conference is just at 1:00. So I'll definitely have to have you on for a part 2 to talk a little more about your Winnipeg Free Press career and covering the CEBL's Sea Bears and also curling as well. One guy you should talk to about curling, he's very involved with the CFL, Don Landry. He loves curling as much as the CFL, and Don's been involved with the league for many years and 590 in Toronto, and he's a curling professional. So I should put you in touch with Don Landry.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, people are sometimes surprised when I tell them that so the metrics for the Winnipeg Free Press, like our online readers and how many clicks an article get and whatever, our curling stories are right up there, sometimes even better than our Jets and Bombers stories. That's how passionate Manitobans are about curling. So yeah, I definitely don't take that beat lightly. I didn't grow up a diehard curling fan, and I'll admit that. But now that I've gone to cover the sport these past few years, I have a whole new respect and appreciation for it. And I mean, Chris, you talk about how friendly CFL football players are and how much of a joy it is to cover this league.
Yeah.
Well, curling is just the same, if not even more so. The curlers across the country, not just Manitoba, are a real pleasure to deal with, and always happy to return your text or call in, whatever. So yeah, curling's been a great beat for sure.
Taylor, as we wrap this up, can you just tell us a little bit about your Target Score podcast, and where can people follow it, which is about the Winnipeg Sea Bears of the Canadian League Basketball League, which is how I got my started in broadcasting from volunteering with the Guelph Nighthawks before they moved to Calgary 3 years ago.
Yeah, there you go. So Chris, growing up, I was, and I still am, a diehard basketball fan, and of course, you know, didn't have a pro team in Winnipeg. We did in the early 2000s and the late 90s, but the leagues that they were playing in, they all kind of fizzled out. So pro basketball wasn't really a thing in Winnipeg. So honestly, it's not just a dream come true for players and coaches and refs and everyone else across the country that we now have a pro league. It's a dream to come true for us media people as well. It's like, wow, I get to cover pro hoops. It's amazing. So yeah, totally love the CBL. And Winnipeg has really dove headfirst into this league. The Sea Bears are the attendance here far and away number one in the league in their 3 years in the CBL. So that's been really cool to see how many people in this city are really passionate about the Sea Bears. So that's been great. So yeah, myself and Joey Slattery, who's a sideline reporter with the league, also does play-by-play sometimes as well. We started this podcast 3 years ago, and throughout the summer, do an episode every week, breaking down what the Sea Bears are doing, and even just kind of across the league. And we've had quite a few players and people associated with the league, and even just kind of basketball in general hop on the show as well. So it's been really fun. We obviously, the Sea Bears, they hosted the championship weekend this year, and they came up short. So we've had a lot to break down on why they had a bit of a shortcoming this year. But yeah, it's been awesome. Again, as a huge basketball fan, it's a dream come true getting to sit near courtside covering pro hoops and seeing guys who have played in the NBA and some guys who should be in the NBA on a weekly basis. It's been awesome. So yeah, you can find it wherever you find your favorite podcast. It's a Target Score Winnipeg, again hosted by myself, Taylor Allen, and Joey Slattery. We kind of slow down a bit in the off season, obviously, because of the off season is a heck of a lot longer than the season. But yeah, we still have a few more episodes that we plan to do before taking a bit of a pause until next year's training camp.
I've had a couple of guests on my show that are involved with the CEBL. Rod Black, who's the play-by-play announcer for the Scarborough Shooting Stars and legendary TSNC TV guy, and Chuck Swirsky, who is a friend of mine. He's the voice of the Chicago Bulls. He does the CEBL games as well. And I'll have to bring you back on and talk a little more about the CEBL, how much it's improved and evolved over the last 5 years, and how basketball is just as important, just how much the game of basketball has improved and grown in this country as well, and probably just as popular as hockey now.
I remember when I was a kid being so pumped that Samuel Dalembert, who was the center for the Philadelphia 76ers back in the day, a pretty good player, not an excellent player, but a pretty good player, he decided to embrace, I forget what his connection was, but he wasn't really Canadian. But anyways, he decided to somehow get his Canadian paperwork done or something and play for our national team. I was like, oh my goodness, Samuel Dalembert is playing for Team Canada. This is amazing. We finally have a legit NBA guy, because, Steve Nash for the longest time stopped playing for Team Canada. And obviously, Samuel Dalembert didn't really move the needle that much. But now I look at Canada now, it's absolutely unbelievable. We have the second most NBA players in the world behind the US, obviously. And the NBA Finals this year was a perfect example of how far we've come. You look at the Thunder, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, MVP, scoring champion, leads the Thunder to the title, but didn't do it alone. Lou Dort, pride of Montreal, just the Dorcher chamber, one of the best defenders in the league, great shooter. Every team in the league would want a guy like Lou Dort on the team. So it was lots of fun watching him. And then you watch the Pacers as well. Benedict Mathurin, another guy from Montreal. He's young, but he's a hell of a scorer, and he could be a guy who could be an all-star in a few years. And then Andrew Nembhard, one of the best. Speak of Lou Dort, he's another one of the best defenders in the league for the Pacers in their long run. He was guarding the best player on the opposing team every single night, whether it was Jalen Brunson with the Knicks or SGA in the finals. Andrew Nembhard is one of the best up and coming players in the league as well, and there's so many others. So yeah, Canada is on the rise, and I don't think it'll be that long, Chris, until Canada wins a medal in men's basketball at the Olympics one day, and that'd be really cool.
Totally agree. And Taylor, we're going to wrap this up. Where can my audience follow you on social media, and if they want to contact you through the Winnipeg Free Press?
Yeah, absolutely. At Taylor Allen 31. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. You can also find me just on the Winnipeg Free Press website, or of course, if you're in Winnipeg, you're in Manitoba, you can pick up a subscription and get the hard copy, which I prefer. I'm old school, Chris, but
same here.
Yeah, always happy to chat sports, or and meet fellow sports fans and readers and whatnot, and whatever it may be. So yeah, so don't hesitate to reach out, and yeah.
All right. Well, Taylor, I want to say thank you for coming on here today, giving us an hour of your time. We'll definitely bring you back on again and talk a little more about your journalism career with the Winnipeg Free Press, talk a little more about the CEBL as well, and hopefully maybe have you on the Argo Bounce podcast show, because my co-host Nick Small, he, besides being a CFL junkie, he is a curling junkie as well. So I think you guys would hit it off well with the curling aspect as well.
There you go. Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much for having me on. It's been cool to learn about your show and you and whatnot. And you've had some pretty impressive guests. Sorry. So I was honored to get the call up to do the show. So thanks.
Well,
and yeah, hopefully we can do it again soon.
Well, thank you so much. And it's the guests that make the show. I just reach out to people, and I've been very lucky, and I love doing what I'm doing. And thank you for being on my 593rd episode as well, Taylor. I'm going to let you go, and we'll talk more CFL. And give me a little bit of time tonight, and I'll send you the full video, the audio, and I'll break this into some reels and clips as well if you want to promote on your social media. Thank you so much, Taylor.
Appreciate it. Take care, Chris.
You too. All right, everyone. That concludes season 11, episode 43, overall 593 of Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com. As we wrapped up this show, guys, Monday Night Football, 8:15. The 1-1 Detroit Lions are on the road to take on the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson in Baltimore tonight at 8:15. And also for CFL fans, there's a CFL press conference taking place now at Hotel X in Toronto at 1 o'clock today with CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnston making a big announcement about the Canadian Football League as well, and we'll be talking about that in the very near future, what that announcement is as well. And the Philadelphia Eagles, 19-point comeback yesterday, down 26-7 late in the third quarter. They came back and won 33-26 over the Rams. The first time since 1975, the Philadelphia Eagles have blocked not one, but 2 kicks in a game. And it's the first time since 78, NFL team has blocked 2 field goal kicks in the fourth quarter. Jalen Carter was the first one, and then Jordan Davis with the game-saving blocked field goal and the touchdown. He ran 61 yards. So the Eagles are 3-0. The Rams dropped to 2-1. The Eagles now are in Tampa Bay next Sunday at 1 o'clock against Baker Mayfield and the Red Hot Bucks, who are 3-0. And the Eagles have not matched up with the Bucks recently, and especially down in Tampa Bay. So Eagles, Tampa Bay this week. And as for the Toronto Argonauts, they're back in action this Friday, September 26th, 10 p.m. Eastern, when the Argos take on the BC Lions. The Argos pretty well have to win out to have a chance at a crossover playoff spot as well. Again, I want to say thank you to my guest today, Taylor Allen, a sports reporter for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Winnipeg Free Press, and he also covers the Winnipeg Sea Bears of the Canadian League Basketball League, the CEBL, as well as curling as well. And before we wrap up this show, guys, the next live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, again brought to you by BarryCollin.com, to be announced. I have more guests coming up soon, so check out my social media pages. For more information on my next show as well. And before we wrap up this show, guys, again, you can follow Taylor on X. You can follow him on Twitter, X, Taylor Allens31, and you can follow his newspaper, the Winnipeg Free Press.com, winnipegfreepress.com. And if you're an Argonauts fan and you're looking for Argonauts season tickets next year, you can contact the Toronto Argonauts account coordinator Jada Christian at 416-815-6139, or you can email Jada at Jada.Christian@MLSE.com and tell her Chris Palme sent you. And as we wrap up this show, guys, as I have a busy afternoon going on, check out a 2025 Trax LT, finance from 0.99% for 60 months, plus get a Costco wholesale $1,200 card for eligible Costco executive members and $1,000 card for non-executive members. More details at BarryCollin.com, or again, visit the dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. And finally, if you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or visit their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. All the animals that are up for adoption, their profiles are on cambridgehumanesociety.org, and they do a really good job in promoting getting the animals adopted into good homes and that as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, again, is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. And Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods, and wherever podcasts are available as well. And as we wrap up this show, guys, StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. And finally, you can email me live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpalme19@gmail.com. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated. And also, if you'd like to support my YouTube channel and my content on here, you can do so at PayPal. Chris Palme on PayPal, or cpalme19@gmail.com. And I'm also on Blue Sky Social at Live with CDP19 as well. And that is about it for today's show, guys. Again, the next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show to be announced. I have more guests and more shows coming up, so make sure you check out my social media pages as well. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Monday and Monday Night Football, Detroit, Baltimore tonight at 8:15. And that is about it for tonight. And I want to say thank you to my sponsor, Barry Collin Chevrolet Dealership, again, for being a part of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. And before we wrap up the show, guys, I'm going to play an interview with Argonauts head coach Ryan Dinwiddie after the Argos' disappointing 21-19 loss to Montreal. And I'm going to play it right now, courtesy of my YouTube channel. And after this interview, we'll see you guys soon for another edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Ryan Dinwiddie speaking to the media after the Argos 21-19 loss to Montreal Friday night at BMO Field, and yours truly was there. Check out Chris Palme Live with CDP Talk Show on YouTube and subscribe as well.
Grade the overall performance of Davey tonight.
No, I thought he battled. I think we all want back, right? I wish I had some play calls back. I thought he gave us a chance to win. I mean, you look at the last day, I'm pretty certain that there was pass interference on Kai, right? Didn't have a challenge left after calling my last time out, but I just told those guys, man, great fight. We're not dead yet. I think we're obviously upset by the finish, but I think the guys understand who we are, and we think we're on the chin. Now we got 4 games. We probably got to win them all 4, right? But I'm proud of that room. Thought they fought their butts off. And, they never batted an eye. They were ready to go.
Coach, just on the note with pass interference, with the calls tonight that are being challenged, what was the explanations for some of them that made it seem questionable, either your side or the fans, etc.?
Which ones you talking about there?
The one that Montreal ended up challenging later in the game.
Yeah, I didn't really get an answer from the refs there. So, right? So, we don't have no excuses. They beat us. We had an opportunity to win that game, and I'm just proud of their effort.
How do you turn the page so quickly? Because obviously there's a long trip out west for next Friday night in the game against BC. When you guys usually link up, a lot of exciting stuff happens. But how do you just keep that momentum going forward? Like you said, the last 4 games probably all going to be must wins. How do you handle going into an environment like that with the travel that's at hand as well?
Well, it's going to be tough, right? I told those guys in my breakdown, let's go to BC and find a way. I thought going to BC last year kind of changed our season, right? So I had a message to those guys, especially guys that are around from last year, kind of understood where I was going with that one. So, it gets the wall a little bit, but it doesn't mean we can't get it done, right? And then let's go find a way to play some good football towards the end and find a way to get in the playoffs. And, I thought those guys fought hard, especially defense. Thought they gave us a chance. And, Mickey with the special teams, right, when with the onside kick we thought we had, I said, let's go, Mickey, let's do it. And I thought that probably would have changed the game as well. But, it's tough, man. We're right there in field goal range at the end. Every game comes down the wire. It seems like all of our games. But, again, proud of that effort by our group.
Coach, how do you establish a run game for these next 4 crucial games?
Yeah, it was tough. Like we try to get it going, and then we call one run the opposite direction, and then we're stuck in the second long. We try to run the ball at the end of the game to get in field goal range. We got to find a way, right? We kind of got it going the last few weeks. We sure was hecked in tonight.
Ryan, thoughts on Jarrett's second CFL start tonight overall?
Well, I think, just like any young kid, right? You're not going to play perfect. I thought the defense stepped up and gave him a chance to win the game. We'll grow from it. Myself as a play caller, too, with Jarrett, and put him in a better opportunity to win football games. I thought he, handled it for the most part. Maybe talked to him a little bit too much in the headset. We'll find ways to get better. I think Jarrett's a competitor. The guys rally around him. But like I said, it's going to take a full 60. It's going to take all 3 units. And you can't just count on one guy to carry you as a football club, right? It's going to take all of them.
Who's got one?
Nope. Coach, the defense looked really good tonight. They made some improvements. They're getting to the quarterback. How important is it that you've got the 3 phases working, and you are working with the 3rd, quarterback who wasn't your starter?
Yeah, I think the defense, answered the bell. They kind of knew they had to, step up a little bit this week, and and we got to be better on defense, going into each week. Offensively, we've had some good performances the last month. We're at our best tonight, but one phase is not doing their, doing their deal. The next one's got to step up. Defense played outstanding. Offensive, we got to get a little bit more. But those guys fought their butts off, and we are down. Right, that was a tough loss, but at the same time, I think it kind of bonded us together a little bit. If that makes sense. On the BC, man, and I think there's gonna be a lot of things written about us and all that stuff. We're going to work, man. I can't wait to go work with this group.
Ryan, you spent a career here having a lot of success. It's almost inverted, right? Instead of coming into the Argos with success, working your way towards it, you had it immediately. You almost have the reverse. How is that affecting you? How do you think you can deal with that?
Well, I think that's what they paid me to lead this franchise. Very happy for the opportunity, right? We've done some good things my first 4 years. I think we have a great opportunity to do some good things in year 5, right? I just love going to work with that group. I told them that afterwards, right? So very appreciative of my players, how they show every day. I'm not the easiest to deal with from time to time, right? So I just want to win, and that's all we're about, right? Trying to win for our owners and represent the Argos in the right way.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks. That was Ryan Dinwiddie, the head coach of the Toronto Argonauts, speaking to the media after the Argos' stinging, crushing 21-19 loss to the Alouettes. The Argos now are 5-9 and basically have to win out their last 4 games to have a chance to get at a crossover. The Argos are back in action Friday, September 26th, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 on the West Coast, when the Argos travel out to BC to take on Nathan Rourke and the BC Lions as well. And I'm going to get off of here as well because the CFL, Stuart Johnston, the CFL commissioner, the new one, is making a big announcement right now, and you can watch it live streamed on CFL.ca as well. Again, I want to say thank you to Taylor Evan for coming on from the Winnipeg Free Press to talk some Blue Bombers and some CFL with us, and hopefully we can have him back on again in the future as well. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this show live streamed or on my audio platforms as well. And again, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership here in Guelph. Hope everybody has a great afternoon, and we'll see you back here soon for another edition of Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show. Again, to be announced with more guests and more shows coming up this week as well. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and enjoy the Monday Night Football game between the Lions and Ravens at 8:15, and more CFL action coming up this weekend as well. And check out the Argo Bounce podcast show with me and Nick Small as well. All right, take care, and thanks for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show.